COVID cut. Looks all right from the front. Don't look at the back. Look, Shutty. Don't put that in the show. I don't know. He'll make his own mind up. Welcome to the Aesthetics Mastery Show. I'm Dr. Tim Pearce.
Hi, I'm Miranda Pearce.
And today we are talking about the social media juggernaut, Dr. Naomi. I had the pleasure of interviewing her and trying to figure out some of her secret sauce. I think that's what I'm going to call it. So what can you learn from someone who is acing it on social media to help you succeed better? That was my goal from the interview, and I think I've got some really interesting stuff for you.
Particularly, the thing that I learned from your interview was she seems to be fearless. So she is just out there on social media and not worrying what anyone else thinks. So let's discuss how we get a bit of that bravery into our social media.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it quite a lot. And when you look at anyone who's got a super enormous following, I consider Dr. Subio as well. He's another one. Consults and clinic are a bit like this as well. They are not just pleasing everyone the whole time. And this is something that's quite hard to understand. It's not actually something I feel comfortable with generating conflict. I do sometimes over not training non-medics, for example. That's usually in response to them saying something to me. I don't go out and do it unless something has happened. But I actually find that quite stressful. And we will notice if there's a big debate going on about that I'll die back for a few days because I need to get replenish. Now, I think there's something interesting about people like Dr. Subio, Dr. Naomi, to degree, whoever managing the consultant clinic, in that they've mastered this balance of how to engage with people who disagree with you, bounce off those things, and basically storm ahead and build phenomenal businesses. And regardless of what you think of the controversy, because I know we've had inboxes about various people saying, I don't like they've done this and they're this and they're that. Regardless of whether you think they're ethical or unethical or there's some problem here or there is something to be learned about their state of mind going into the social media storm, because that's what it is. You put yourself up in these situations, you are going to get criticized, and it takes a special mindset to survive that and build something worth noticing on social media, basically.
What do you think her conviction is? Why does she seem so like such a strong backbone?
There's something around not being validated by your colleagues that she's got, not being validated by anyone except herself, to be honest. Like, she puts stuff out that she likes, and a percentage of people don't like it and a percentage of people love it. And there's an old story from years ago that involves a man trying to carry a donkey across a bridge, and people are criticizing him from the side. I don't know if you've ever heard it. It's quite interesting because it's weird, because this donkey is freaking out, and each time he tries to carry it across the bridge, they do it a different way, and a percentage of people disagree. And eventually they do something crazy that everyone's all right with, and they all fall over this bridge and die. And the moral of the story is something on the lines of, if you try and please all the people all the time, you end up pleasing nobody, and especially not yourself. And that's what I see loud and clear in Dr. Naomi. Is she's absolutely not trying to please everyone. And if you don't like Dr. Naomi, you're not part of her tribe. Like, she's never been trying to get you on there. She's talking to a very specific group of people who she resonates with, and she's building a phenomenal business out of the attention that she gets from the people who care about what she wants to say and vibe with it. And you only get that if you're brave enough to piss off some people. Mm-hmm. And that's the interesting thing. I'm not saying that's not something that I genuinely like. I'd much rather be friends with everyone. I'm not. Like, we have our enemies in the industry, or the unregulated part especially, but in other places too. And that's not something I enjoy. But if you're strong enough to put up with it, it's one of the ways to build a really notable social media presence.
Yes, because
there are other ways too, but.
Because if you are, and I've learned this lesson myself recently, if you are trying to pander to all of these opinions, and you're trying to sort of minimize your risk and not piss off the people over here, and oh goodness, I forgot about them, I better not piss them off, then you become beige to everyone. And even the people that you do want to hang out with on social media and who normally you have a good relationship with are going to be a bit like, God, she's a bit beige, and I'm just not as interested. And you won't be put in front, the algorithm won't put you in front of those people. But this is, people might be listening to this thinking, are you advocating getting deliberately a bit narky and kind of, trying to ruffle a few feathers? Is that what she's doing? Or is it more that
Well, some people will tune in for the pure reason that it's a soap opera. I mean, that's what the whole of, we have the EastEnders, that classically is loads of conflict in that show. People watch it because there's conflict, and somehow we like to see how conflict is resolved. So you can get attention that way. But I think another way of seeing it from a social media perspective is that it's thought leadership, and in it, by its definition, you can't be leading people if you're saying what people agree with the whole time. So thought leadership, if you decide you're going to do things slightly differently, have a different opinion, say it out there, it doesn't mean you're right or wrong being a thought leader. It means you have original thoughts that you put out there, love it or hate it, it goes out there. And people are longing for thought leadership. They want someone to show the way. In fact, actually, and this is pure coincidence, Dr. Naomi posted today that leaders make way for other people to follow. And that is what, regardless of what you think of the direction, that is what people want. They want someone to make a way that they can follow. And be that with a funny meme that laughs about how it feels for your Botox to run out over COVID. And, people going, oh, that's how I feel. I understand that emotion. So you're clarifying how they're feeling with a meme. That's what memes basically do, in many ways, not all of them. You are providing clarity to people. You can't provide clarity to people if you're saying what people have already heard. You're not clarifying anything. It's already known. And that's what thought leaders are doing. And sometimes it takes the form of a funny meme, and sometimes it offends 50% of people. But the essence of it is being brave enough to say what you really think in whatever form, be that a meme or a video or however you put it across. But that's what I think it is.
I just want to pick up on that quote that you have referred Naomi saying earlier today, because it's more than just that leaders, say brave things, but also that it's a Simon Sinek quote that she put up. Leaders are the ones who have the courage to go first, to put themselves at personal risk, to open a path for others to follow. To me, I actually WhatsApped you this because I see you doing this. And I think you are putting yourself at personal risk. But as with all risks, calculated risks, the rewards are disproportionately greater. If you are willing to speak your truth and you are willing to challenge those people that you think need challenging, then you will get more followers who love you and who are raving fans, but you'll also have enemies.
And actually, in many ways, that's what conflict is on social media. Conflict is never just the heat. There's always an exchange that people make sense of it. And they're trying to figure out who's right and who's wrong and who's going to win and who's going to lose. But there's a lot of brain power going on in those debates. And actually, that's I've heard it said that one of the last commodity, or the last commodity? The last commodity will be information, is processing. And it's that ability to process the world and make sense of it to people that people are longing for on social media. These really big Instagram accounts are doing that in their field. Like, they are not just posting great before and afters.
Yeah.
Because you can't do it.
Or great memes. Enough. It's not as simple as that.
Yeah. They are the memes. You can post a funny meme that can do really well, but the best memes are when people go, that's exactly what I've been feeling. That's what I think. And some people look at it and hate it. But the point is, you're making sense of the world for people. That is a really valuable thing to do for people, even if you disagree with the conclusion. That's why people are following and staying in touch with these people. One of the main things. The other one is the personality as well. Because now that I've interviewed Dr. Naomi, I'm really interested in how she responds to different situations, because she's like my friend, like she's someone I know. I want to see her respond to all the chaos going off. And that is also addictive, because what that is a story, and it's risk-free for me to get learning from her mistakes. And that's what she means by leadership. She's taking the risk, doing something that might be applicable for me. At the moment, there's this battle about whether your clinic is open or not. We are literally about to have the same battle in the UK, and I'm learning from Dr. Naomi, and I might come up with a different conclusion, but the point is, it's so engaging to see how she's engaging with the world, because she's real and she's pumping real reality out, not a cardboard cutout.
Yes.
And she's putting the truth of what she thinks and feels the whole time. And she's like everyone, is a flawed human being. Sometimes she'll get it wrong. And that's what makes it so interesting.
Yeah.
Because she's putting it out. So I get real learning about how to engage, and it's interesting. And it's, as I said, I'll say it one more time, I might disagree with some of the stuff. It doesn't matter. The point from building a brand perspective is that you are brave enough to do some thinking and just share it for people for whatever it is. That's something that's really valuable. And that's why you have loads of followers.
And I think that with when you are brave enough to speak your truth, then you become colourful and memorable as well. And I think too much of the time I see people who are maybe new into this industry, nurses, doctors, etc., and you are trying to be perfect because you think you're worried about your NMC, losing your NMC pin or whatever, and you think, well, nurses are perfect, we need to be perfect. And it's like, yeah, but on social media, actually, perfect is boring. Perfect is beige. Perfect is like every other perfect clone nurse. And that will not get you attention. And people will not think you're authentic because you're not authentic if you're perfect, because people know that all human beings are not perfect. So you must be your authentic self. I mean, don't be unprofessional and kind of like have a picture of you picking your nose or, on the toilet, whatever. That would be ridiculous. But if you're passionate about something, say it. Let's get into that. I want to know, like, we've been talking about Dr. Naomi and people will be watching this and they'll be like, yeah, I love her or I hate her or whatever. And they'll be interested in it. But how can people here watching this who don't have 227,000 followers, how can they do this themselves?
Well, the first thing is to realize that all the things that you don't like about yourself are probably the things that differentiate you. So your weirdisms, the weird things you do, like the funny mistakes you make, when you remove all of that, you become a cardboard cutout. Now, I was thinking that like there are exceptions. Like I'm quite liking. It's sad that I can't remember his name, but he's a professor who does anatomy. He does 1 minute anatomy videos. People know watching. I quite like them. They're rough and ready. They're always like a really unique take on the same anatomy that I already know. Like he links it together differently. But there's something about the fact that it's not perfectly shot and recited. There's more personality in it. And those are the things that make it social. And we've made this mistake in the past. I used to think, that I have to be a cardboard cutout. If you look back at our old videos, on the Skin Fever Training YouTube channel, I'm much more formal. And what I've done over the years is released myself of the burden of trying to be something I'm not and just started to say what I really think in the way that I normally speak. And that's where the magic happens, because I just say things that are imperfect, and that's what humans are. And then people think there's a real person here, as opposed to the projection of an ideal, which no one cares about the projection of an ideal because they are not that themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's so powerful. And I think one of the moments in the Naomi chat that really resonated with me, and I really kind of saw that she had a passion around, and again, this will relate to you guys, is she was very sad about when she sees clinicians pandering to their colleagues in particular and holding themselves back because of what they care about their colleagues think, instead of actually being focused on their customers. What did you think of that? Do you see that going on?
Oh yeah, it's a major fear for most clinicians. There's something very unique about healthcare professionals in that we go together. We're indoctrinated almost as a tribe. Like we literally have values which go with who we are. And if you break one of the rules of the tribe and you get ostracized, that's very, very threatening. So people do care, and there's value in that as well. Like we don't want doctors doing insane things just because they don't care about their tribe thinks. In fact, you will get struck off if you do that. It's one of the privileges of being a doctor. But actually, more often than not, when people are putting themselves out there, they are actually imagining their competitors and what they think of them and other colleagues, because they're the most likely people to snipe, than they are the person who really needs their advice. So they're often like, I don't know if I'm not an expert and I don't know that much about it. Well, an expert compared with who? You're not. You are an expert compared with Dawn from down the road, who's never looked at having dermal filler in her life. Like, you live down the road from her and you can give her a piece of advice or help her make the decision. It doesn't matter what some academic thinks in a hospital or what Dr. Sim thinks online. You put your imperfect version of advice out, help someone make a decision, and you're on your way. But if you wait for everyone to approve of you, you'll never post anything.
And also, so people fear colleagues criticizing them, but also people they wait until they've had a pat on the head from a colleague. I see this quite a lot. I think it would be, many people watching this would just absolutely love it if you would just reach out from the internet and say to them now, you are worthy, well done, go out and be yourself on social media. But we can't do that for you. You have to do it for yourself. And I think that Dr. Naomi absolutely does it for herself. She the person that she wakes up in the morning blatantly that she's thinking of is that customer of hers, and colleagues might like her or hate her, but she could take it or leave it.
Yeah. Well, this is probably one of the most important things to get from it is, sometimes she talks to the industry in general, but she's primarily talking around a tribe of people that she knows through face-to-face conversations as a doctor in a doctor-patient setting. So she has her particular niche of style of treatments, and those people who want that are really, really into hearing what she's got to say. And if you see her feed and you don't feel like you want to engage with that, or even there's something you don't like about it, that's because you're not actually meant to be part of her tribe. She clearly has a tribe, and she clearly knows how to speak to them, or she wouldn't be doing so well. And sometimes people forget that. Like I think I've already said it. Trying to be all things to all people makes you nothing. Mm-hmm. Like you need to be okay with being polarizing, so that you can really have an intimate conversation. If you think about all your intimate conversations, like many people from the outside world would disagree with all sorts of things that people say behind closed doors, but that's how real human relationships are built, are through intimate conversations, vulnerability, saying what you really think. What we all know is really going on. There's a complex world out there where people have opinions that they don't say. If you're brave enough to say them, you get some credit for it. So sometimes it goes the other way as well.
So someone's watching this here now. They might be saying, well, great, I'm glad for Dr. Naomi and Dr. Subio and Consultant Clinic. And you've got these big audiences, you're willing to take risks and be leader. Do you know what? I'm not like all that into being a thought leader. So you can take your controversial opinions and just keep them to yourself. I would just like to do well within my small town or village. How can someone who's watching, who feels like that, still do what Dr. Naomi is doing in terms of speaking and resonating with her customers?
Well, first of all, there's no issue with. I would much rather be the number one brand in a city than not really well known in that city, but known all over the world. Like in medical aesthetics, it's better to be popular in your locality than vaguely popular everywhere. So that's all about niching down your audience. You could have 10,000 followers in Manchester and be the most famous doctor in Manchester, or nurse, or whatever practice clinician you are. So niching down is one thing. Get to know who your audience really is. What are their hopes and fears? What are the battles that they're having right now? And can you bring clarity to that? Now, primarily, you're going to bring clarity to things that are related to having aesthetic treatments, but sometimes you can bring clarity to a political situation if you want to. We've certainly seen clinicians take a political view on COVID and PPE, and it's resonated really well with their audience. And what's really happening there is that you're often expressing vulnerability. So that clinician is saying, I'm scared, I'm doing this work in the NHS and I feel underprotected, but also you're expressing a part of your story that people buy into. And this took me a while to figure out, but often people will have it. It's why they actually in the UK, we have this issue with unregulated practitioners, and people will have treatments with social media personalities. Now, the reason for that is not because they think they're the best injector in the world. It's because they want to be part of that story. I was treated by a famous person. So regardless of what you think about that, people are buying into the story. And, if I was going to have surgery in America, I'd quite like to have surgery with Dr. Subio because he's a personality. And then I can tell everyone that I had my surgery. It won't be a
boob job.
But that's what's happening. You only feel that way you don't feel that way with some corporate clinic. And this is what's happening on social media. Like these big brands that are corporate are getting their cardboard cutouts. No one cares. You have to pay some teenager to advertise your product because no one cares about your logo anymore.
Oh my God, that's so true. And we I'll be honest, we experience that. So we have various brands at Skinviva. We have Skinviva Training, Dr. Tim. I have a personal brand, and our brands do so much better proportionately because people recognize us. They're like, oh yeah, it's Tim's face. I mean, they don't think that, but it's subconscious. Whereas when they see Skinviva Training, it's a logo, and I'm not sure there's anything we can do about that. We have a sort of a small corporate, but
it's almost becoming a part of the Dr. Tim brand, or that's how people have always worked. They buy through personalities. Tribes back in the day they knew individual people in that tribe who'd do particular roles. It wasn't possible to have it any other way. So it's almost like we're going back to how we always were, which is buying from people.
But I think that's such an important point, because people who are watching this now might be thinking that it's a bad thing to admit that they are single-handed practitioners. Like, I literally remember, I mean, there's a story when we first started 12 years ago and I started 11 years ago to full time to assist you or whatever it was. I remember I kept my maiden name on all of the correspondence because I thought it made us look small, that we were two people and two people is bigger than one person. But I was like, I didn't want to be some 2-bit, and actually that was the worst thing I could have done. People loved the fact that we were married and there was a story there.
People still do that. I think probably less than normal, but they still sometimes will produce a business card with the word we.
Yeah.
Like we at such and such a skin clinic. And it's like, there is no we, it's just you. And actually that's better.
Yeah.
People like you. They don't necessarily want 5 people to choose between.
Yes.
And we have it within the clinic. The patients will choose specific doctors they like. And it's not that one's better than the other. That's who they know and trust.
Yeah.
And that's what the game is building trust. And trust doesn't mean that you're always nice or kind to people. It means you're predictable. Now, I can tell you, whatever Dr. Naomi is, she's the degree of predictability in terms of what memes you're going to get, the value you're going to be produced, you're going to see. And that's a really important part, is you're consistently, and that you can only do that by being authentic. Because if you're trying to project different versions of yourself, you're unreliable.
So we did discuss this with her, and I'd like to know your thoughts on it. How do you tap into your authenticity? It's a kind of a marketing word, isn't it? Like, someone's watching this now thinking, well, I don't know what my authentic self is on social media.
Well, that's because you're thinking about social media. The real question to ask yourself is, what do you really think? Like, what do you actually think about the difference between Botox and dermal filler? Don't look it up. Like learn about it and then say, well, what would I recommend to my mum? What do you really think about when your clinic should open? How do you actually feel when you see the other clinics are open or closed or whatever? What are your fears, your hopes? And because what you're doing is you're doing the thinking for other people, and that's why they're grateful for you. So do you sometimes think some people look overdone? Like, put that out on social media. Like, don't try and pretend this never happens, because everyone knows some people look done. So talk about the fear points if that's the thing that you're thinking about. So there's something around saying what you think. There's a story element going on. So Dr. Naomi is really quite clear about this, that she rebounds off the negativity. So she's fueled by negativity, and what that evolves into is a story. So when I see a meme saying leaders make the path to other people, I know exactly the context that has come out of. And that's way more interesting because there's a story. It's not just a post taken out of nowhere. This is Dr. Naomi bouncing off reality while I get to watch injury free. And that's why it's so great to watch. And there's that learning through other people, which all stories are. That's what stories do. And if you're willing to put your story out there, people will pay attention, because they're like, I wonder what's going to happen next in the world of Dr. Naomi or Dr. whoever, as they rebound off their various issues that they're having. And as they open a new clinic and have struggles here and have successes here, it's endlessly fascinating.
I've seen some amazing posts today. When we're filming this is the 12th of May, which is International Nurses Day. And I've seen some gorgeous posts about people sharing their past of how they came up in nursing. And that's an example, but you can do that every day. You don't need an International Nurses Day. You can tell your story, tell your struggles. If you guys are worried about oversharing, and I think that could be a thing, some stories are not appropriate, then there's a great Brene Brown quote, which is that you should share the scar, not the wound. So Dr. Naomi, I think she does ride this line. So she will, yes, we know that she's going through struggles right now, but she is on the powerful side of the struggle. She's not saying, oh, everyone's getting at me, you meanies. She's like, everyone's getting at me, do one. Because she do you agree with me? Like, she's on the front foot with it.
Yeah. I saw one post saying, I wish everyone could focus on their own business, and that's rather than everyone else's business, which is, it's sort of more neutral than what you just illustrated. But yeah, there's whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. It's the fact that you're getting an insight into the battle. Yeah. It isn't plastered over. It's not painted over.
Yeah.
And that rawness, that there's something really fascinating about that. But what you're saying is, don't reveal something that's just a negative. Like, something really bad's happened at the end. Yeah. Like, we like to see it. This is the thought leadership again. We like to see how they're making sense of it and how they are still on the path. So here's my insight, and that's useful to me now. I'm still cracking on, rather than this is all awful, the end.
Yeah. A concrete example of what you could do on your social media is a post that I created for myself, and then other people copied it, which was, it was entitled, "I'm not for you." So it was, I think, a picture of me, and then it said, "I'm not for you if you like," and when people started using it, my colleague Claire Lavery, she did a gorgeous post up using this, which was, she said, "I'm not for you if you like, big, massive lips." And she said very classily, she said, "I'm not judging you if you like big, massive lips, but it's just not the way I roll. I'm not for you if you are not that fussed about safety. Safety is number one for me." So in this kind of really clever way, she's revealing all of her values. And also then when you saw underneath the comments, all of her clients were like, "Oh, I love you. This is why I come to you." Because she was saying, it was a call to arms. These are my values? Do you like my values? Yeah, I like your values. And it's that kind of thing. I think Dr. Naomi does that as well.
Yeah, I've heard it said around marketing that you don't need to go and persuade people to come and have treatment with you or to buy your product. You just need to reveal who you are, and the people who resonate with that will come and say, "I'm one of your tribe." Let me finish with what for me was the take-home message. And I asked Dr. Naomi at one point, what advice would she give to someone who was dealing with criticism from various aspects of the industry from within? And she gave me this quote, which I found really personally very helpful. And what it is power. It's a Game of Thrones quote. And the full quote is, "Power resides where men believe it resides. It's a trick, a shadow on the wall. And a very small man can cast a very large shadow." And now you could probably interpret that in different ways. But for me, it's remembering that those people who are casting a shadow on you are probably very small men. There's definitely a chance that that's happening, and that you really need to direct your attention at where you believe the power resides. And actually through directing your attention, you create that. Now, what I see in Dr. Naomi is for what is building her business, whether you like it or not, is the ability for her to nurture relationships with people who are part of her tribe, regardless of what the other people think. Now, there are pros and cons to all these things, but she's chosen where the power is, and you get to do that in your own clinic as well. You don't have to give the power away to whoever is criticizing you. You get to decide who you're going to nurture and how you're going to build your clinic.
Fab. So if you found this useful and you're intrigued by all of our discussion around the Naomi interview, then if you go in the link below, check the description, and there's a link through to the full interview. It really was brilliant. So check it out. And we will look forward to seeing you again. Please do drop us any comments in fact, I'd love to know, what is your biggest takeaway from this discussion? Drop us in the comments below. And don't forget that this can be found in a podcast form as well, wherever you get your podcast, iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, wherever. You can get this and listen to us on your commute or whatever.
Thank you very much for watching. See you next week.
Take care.